I scaled this e-commerce brand to $86,227 per month in revenue from literally zero, and in this video I want to break down this brand and go over our exact Google Ads strategy step by step. But before we do any of that, let's rewind, take a step back, and go deep into the brand and its details to figure out exactly what this brand is, what it sells, etc. Now, this brand right here, before we go into the actual details, is a brand under my Google Ads agency, Euro Marketing. We essentially began working with this brand during the month of January, specifically January 16th. And as you can see, around this time period is when they were getting results. After we started work, we actually got them to $0 in total revenue. There's a reason why this happened, which I will go over very shortly. But once the problems that the brand was facing were fixed during this time period, we started ads right back. And this time the scale was there right off the bat. So the brand overall is doing pretty amazing. If we just go on over to their Shopify backend, we can see the brand is up in total 85% in revenue month over month in the last 90 days. They have been doing a pretty decent job at revenue. They were actually down in total revenue, which is why they actually came to us in the first place. But this was expected, as before January, November, December, etc., those were the peak seasons for this brand. Now, in terms of what this brand actually sells, this brand actually sells only car wheels. That's it, car wheels, and it's a branded product. This brand has multiple different brands at the top of the level. However, each of these separate brands is for a different type of automotive product. In this situation, this brand sells these kinds of car wheels, and because of that, if we look at their overall AOV, it's a pretty decent amount. I mean, in the last 30 days, the AOV is $870, so pretty hefty AOV. But that didn't stop us from getting this brand to now almost $100,000 a month, that too profitably at an 8.48x ROAS. Now, when we began work with this brand, before we dive deeper into any of this, what we came to realize is that brand was doing sales. It looked like they were getting decent revenue, decent profitability, etc. However, when we took a deeper look into this brand, something shocking came to our attention, and that was this brand did not have any solid conversion tracking going on. I mean, if we look right here, in total, it doesn't seem as if there were any conversion tracking issues. But if we now change this to all time, we can see that this brand was actually generating sales from multiple different conversion tracking actions. So in total, there were 5, 6, 7 different tracking action firing and recording data in total for each of these campaigns. And that was not a good thing at all, because that meant although the sales were only maybe $20,000 or maybe they were only $58,000, because there were multiple conversion tracking actions firing, Google's algorithm was adding it all up and giving a very inflated number right here. And even then, the ROAS was terrible. I mean, it was a 1.18x. So that's what this brand kind of came off of. If we look right here, this brand only did about $1.4 million in revenue, not too much. However, if we look at everything else, it looks like everything else added to about $1.53 million in revenue. And although this might not seem like a big number at this 7-figure range, this can very quickly add up, especially when you count that these conversions were also double and triple and quadruply firing and getting added to give improper numbers in total. I mean, this was just a very weak foundation right from the beginning, and this was technically harming the account, because any Google Ads account needs proper data to work, because without proper data, the algorithm does not know what direction to take the brand in. And that's exactly what was going on within this brand. So we had to literally start from the foundation up for this brand. But that's not the only problem that this brand was facing. I mean, if we just take a look at some of the other things that were going on within this brand, for example, the product feed, we can understand there was one major issue happening. If we just take a look at some of these product images right here, a lot of these might not be visible to you, but these are basically just specific car wheels on white backgrounds. That's literally it. Even if the car wheel itself is white, it's still on a white background, and this led to a huge amount of problems during the starts, because how are you supposed to stand out from competitors? How are you supposed to beat them when they're literally doing the same exact thing right here? So everything here was blending in, and that meant this brand was literally just fighting based on bids and budget. So it was no surprise why, before we actually took over this brand was not not really that profitable. I mean, during that time before we took over, this brand, even with the bad conversion tracking, even with inaccurate details, it was running at a 6.51x ROAS, whereas the break even for this brand is a 7x and 8x and beyond. So technically this brand was not even profitable during that time. But in addition to that, one major issue that was happening during this time, if we just take a look at from the month of December, so December 16th to January 16th, what we understand is that a lot of the products within this brand, they were actually not even getting advertised properly. So I'm going to add in a filter to see all the products which were eligible during that time. So these are all products which are potential products and candidates to be sold, and the number was 208 total. Now with another filter of just adding in clicks less than 1, because we want to see all the products with less than 1 click during this time, we see a whopping 40 products. Now that does not seem like a big amount, but when you have 40 products and in total you had only about 208 different products, that equals roughly 19% of your product catalog that's just sitting there. It's not advertising, it's not doing anything, it's literally rotting away. And that means you're only relying on about 80 to 81% of your product catalog, which is not a good thing, because now it's too much pressure on those products to work. So this meant directly that the campaign segmentation strategy that was going on during this time, it was not really working properly. But that's when we came in. We began work on February 17th. Now, before we actually dive deep into the actual kind of nitty-gritty details of the approach and the strategy, what you want to understand is during this time, we actually wanted to descale the account, and hence why you see such a long period of time where there's no sales. This was because not only did we just completely remove their conversion tracking because it was fully wrong, but also we were working with them to set up a new potential theme for the website. So that's why it took a little bit longer than expected, but they still wanted to run ads during that time. And that's essentially because they were still getting sales from Google during that time. I mean, January was not the best month. It was only around $90,000 in total revenue, but that was still better than having nothing. But once we fixed all of that stuff, once we started really putting in our efforts in February, that's when it went directly above the 6-figure per month level. But that's essentially what we did there. But on the landing page side of things, now this is website right here is a perfect example of the landing page we implemented for this brand. Now if we look at it right at the top, we see that there's only the color gray and the color green. That's literally it across this entire website. There's a little bit of red here as well, but overall very bland and very boring. And it's this way because bland and boring works the best for this niche. People that are in this niche, they just want to buy the wheels, that's it. They don't want to go above and beyond. They don't have any types of specific slang words they use. They don't like specific colors. It's none of that stuff. So it's very simple, very straightforward, and that worked to our advantage because we kind of helped the CEO and CMO of this brand really divert their entire approach and make it more customized for their ideal audience. But at the top, we see trust-inducing factors like the phone numbers, because again, this brand has a very high AOV. I mean, if we just look at the AOV right now, within this time period, it's around $923. So people do often call in to buy the products and the wheels. But besides that, if you scroll down, we can see they have a little banner which talks about a giveaway, a $20,000 sweeps. And in this niche, this is fairly common because again, it's just the nature of the brand, it's the nature of the product. They can do a lot of giveaways, and as a result, they can get a lot of customers through the door, making them buy different things. So this is something our brand was also potentially implementing as well. But then if we scroll down, there were specific buttons and whatnot, like find parts that fit my vehicle, which are unique and custom for this brand. And that's because not every one of these wheels can fit every car model or every car brand. So it's very custom, and these are kind of just additional barriers users have to go and beat. But that's the nature of this brand once again, and these are all things we had within our brand as well, besides this upsells, because upsells and downsells on the product page itself are very big distraction in my experience. But as we scroll down, we can see more upsells, just description right here at the bottom with just very specific keywords, very specific product information, all related to the specifics of the wheels, because again, it's just wheels, it's nothing too crazy, but a pretty straightforward kind of overall layout. And this is how we were laying out our website as well. But once the layout of the website was fully optimized for our brand, that's when we moved on to the Google Ads side of things. So what we did is we essentially just started one campaign. That's right, just one campaign, a smart bidding based campaign that's a performance max with all of the products in it, but we made it go after shopping only because we didn't want to confuse the algorithm too much and give it too many different things to go after. And as you can see, that individual performance max campaign started off with extremely positive results. I mean, just the last week of February right here, we were running at a 9x ROAS. This is a big improvement from the initial 5x and 6x ROAS, and that 5 and 6x ROAS was there even with the double and triple and quadruple tracking. So this, just with one tracking code, was already on its own a very big improvement. But that's when we moved on to more campaigns. And here we still kept it fairly simple. We just launched a simple generic cold traffic search campaign going after the broad audience and broad keywords. And as you can see, it only has one sale so far with a 3.79x ROAS, nothing too crazy, but it's starting to get data, and that's the main goal here. And then finally, a campaign which we just recently literally launched. It spent only $23. It's a catch-all shopping campaign. Essentially, the main goal of this campaign is to catch all the potential sales which would leak out of the funnel from this original PMAX campaign. Because keep in mind, this PMAX is running at a pretty decent ROAS. However, for the shopping catch-all campaign, what we have done is we have started it at a very high target ROAS of 1,000%. And this is because we want to catch all the potential sales that get lost from this original PMAX campaign. That's essentially the only kind of approach we have going on here. And even with the simple approach, we are able to generate almost $90,000 in revenue within a 30-day period. So that just goes to show you that nothing fancy is really needed to scale your brand to the next level. And we're gonna keep this approach going, but now we're gonna actually start adding in a bit more segmentation, because if we go now to the products, we can see there's a few products in here which are not doing the best. And the main goal here is to take parasites, these bad products, out of these good performing products in this good performing campaign and give them their own separate approach. That's when true scale is introduced. But along with that, we also plan to scale via vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. So in this situation, vertical scaling is just increasing the budgets every so often as long as results are stable. But in addition to that, we are going to be continuing to segment out the different products, different angles, add more campaigns in terms of horizontal scaling. All of this will work now as a funnel to feed these kinds of good performing PMAX campaigns enough data so they can go out and find even more customers profitably. But that's essentially how we scale this brand to almost 6 figures per month. And we can definitely do the same for yours. So if you run a brand doing $1 million a year and you want to scale to multi 7 figures per year with Google Ads, go onto my website at euromarketing.com and schedule a pre-call with me to see essentially how we can work together and make that happen. But check out this video right here on the right way to scale your Google Ads spend, which I figured out after scaling 400+ brands across the last 5 years.